All right, Anil, hi. First of all, I met you here at the Canon in Houston at the co-working center. And the first time I met you, the charismatic personality that you have, and then the articulation, the communication skills that you have, the self-representation. Also, I noticed and I observed you talking to other startups, the completeness of your sentences, the completeness of your thoughts inspired me to speak with you and to become friends with you. And I really wanted to, get to know you better. And you were in a corporate world before, right? Like how
Yeah.
many years were you in the corporate world?
Oh, 23 years. I was in the very established corporate world with a reliable, W-2 paycheck, and so that's the world I grew up under, and that was the only world that I thought I would be in because I didn't grow up with any entrepreneurial dreams, or I didn't have entrepreneurs in my family or friends network. My parents are immigrants from India, and it was all about get educated and go get a good job and keep your head down, and you do that until it's time to retire at 65. And so that's what I thought I was doing as well.
But 23 years is a very impressive number. What happened? What changed?
Yeah. Yes. So yes, it is. I talked to my friends, and it was the age of 45 where I said I'm going to leave a 17-year career specifically in commercial lending, where I've been very successful, well compensated, to just basically start over in a lot of ways and start with zero income. It does sound crazy to some after that many years, but for me, probably it started about 4 or 5 years back, probably when I was entering my 40s, maybe the classic midlife crisis. I was thinking more about legacy in the future. And I also was recognizing that I was starting to feel stale in what I was doing in the commercial lending field, especially by the time I left last year. I was very successful, but I was feeling stale. I felt like I was using half my brain, and I could still do a good job. And I'd not like that feeling. I'm not of being so comfortable and stale. That frankly scares me. When I start feeling stale, I'm wired to keep learning and seek new experiences and stretch myself. And that's what over the course of 3 or 4 years, I've thought about it, talked to mentors, reflected, and finally had the courage to go make that leap. So it definitely doesn't happen very quickly, that decision. It probably happened over 4 or 5 years, but yeah, ultimately, yeah, still it was a big leap. After 23 years, kind of just have relying on a very stable paycheck and kind of a very much more predictable kind of path to what I'm doing now.
But Anil, I want to dive deep on this one because you have given me right now so many beautiful things. Like I noticed you repeated the keyword stale for multiple times.
Mm.
That you are stagnation, right? You get into stagnation, midlife crisis, call it being stuck. I call it being stuck, right?
Yes.
You go to work every day, you do physically make progress, like you go from A to B, but here you're stuck and you see that, you know what? Yes, you do the chores, you wake up, you put the drinks on, you drive, and then you have your sandwich and you go to meetings and you leave the meetings, you pick up the kid from the school or and you come home, you buy flowers to your wife, and then you make the dinner, you check all the boxes, but something is not moving. But let me ask you,
Yes.
because this seems like a pretty good life from the outside, right? When someone looks at your life, I was driving this morning and I stopped at the traffic light and I looked at the guys doing the road construction and I said, they're looking at me and they're saying, in this rain, today's rainy weather here, in this rain, this guy has a good life. We're working on the street. He's in the car going to work or somewhere. And I said, they have no idea what kind of volcanoes I have inside me, right?
Mm,
Know what I am going through. I bet I have no idea what they are going through. But your position seems so comfortable from outside. Two things. Number one, how was your decision perceived in the family where you already have all the boxes in place, the convenient lifestyle, the security and the safety of the paycheck coming in without you worrying too much, and then you just wake up and you say, you know what, after 4 or 5 years, I'm done. So how was it perceived? And how was it perceived externally from the people that love you? And how was it perceived from within? Because you go from known into unknown.
those are good questions. Yeah. So within my family network, well, thankfully, first and foremost, my wife was supportive. She was apprehensive. She's is not from a business background, so I'm not sure. Even at 17 years as a commercial lender, I'm not sure if she really could describe what I did to friends. But she was supportive and believed in me. So and she, obviously being married, she's seen the progression of over 4 or 5 years of like seeing me kind of ruminate and reflect and just express the desire to do something different. So she was thankfully very supportive. I couldn't do it if she wasn't supportive. Now, I get back to the immigrant parents that they came here so their kids could get educated and get a good job and put their heads down. Yeah, they thought I was crazy, but it's to be. I'm no surprise there, just given their background and how they've grew up, very poor, um, and then within my outside network, professional network, friends, really a lot of just some surprise, but just positivity, encouragement. I mean, a lot of my friends in the banking world continue to, when they see me, just tell me that they're proud of me and that they respect the guts I've had, that I had to have to take this leap. I think a lot of my people I've known, in their 40-ish in established careers, I talk to a lot of them that say they want to do something different one day, but the pool of comfort, that pool is so strong, and that the idea of disruption is so scary to some that most people won't take that leap because they just can't stomach that the thought of not being comfortable anymore, or not having certainty. So then that ties into the last thing you asked about myself. What's funny is, again, not being an entrepreneurial kid or somebody that ever thought who's entrepreneurial, who's very risk averse. And, became a commercial banker and a very conservative one in terms of how I underwrote and looked at risk. It's kind of crazy that me, like I said, I'm not the kid that had a business at 5 years old or selling lemonade or, a newspaper route at 10 years old. I never thought I'd do this kind of entrepreneurial type of activity. But for me, going from comfort and predictability to uncertainty and some financial, like just apprehension and just uncertainty of like how the business will build and what's to come. It some days it weighs on me, but overall, surprisingly, I've learned to digest it, and I've learned how to be comfortable with being uncomfortable, and it's frankly taught me a lot of just great things. So I've gained a lot of wisdom from this experience of being uncomfortable. It's really, talk about stale. There's no staleness now. Every day is very vivid. Every day is not always good in terms of professional standpoint, but it's vivid and vibrant, and there's no staleness. But yeah, so I've internally have acclimated, I think, to the uncertainty and the uncomfortableness sometimes of this journey pretty well. Which, yeah, like I said, surprising. If you knew me as a little kid growing up, you would not think I'd be the one that would take a risk like this. But I guess we all change and evolve, and I guess I evolved into somebody different than I was when I was 10.
You mentioned something called get comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Mm.
And I I really like it. I wrote it down because you gotta become comfortable with being uncomfortable. And but let me ask you this, two questions here. Number one, would you do that again if if you could have a remote control, go back now, would you press that button to leave the
Mhm.
corporate world, the convenience of it again? Would you do that again, or do you have tiny bits and pieces of regret?
Zero regret. So yeah, hell yes, I do it again. I would do it again, and you know, absolutely, because you know, like the amount of growth I've had personally, even in just it's been only 6 months or so since I left that established corporate world has been, but the amount of growth I've seen personally has been phenomenal. I feel like I've become smarter, more creative, more nimble, more energized. My network, including great people like you, has expanded by multiples. And I had a great network to begin with, but like it's just as I've kind of moved out into just different paths, it's led me to some phenomenal people like that I just would not have crossed paths with before. And so, in so many ways, that's like the personal growth has been so immense that it's far outweighed the challenges or the pressure. And yeah, I would resoundingly, do it all over again. And um, um, yeah, it's but yeah, taking that leap, it was a huge mental hurdle, but yeah, since I did, even yeah, of course, the first 2 months are just like in oblivion and happy and a little stupid and just like excited to tell people what you're doing. But I'm past that kind of, if you want to call that newlywed phase or that honeymoon phase, and I'm more in the reality of building, and I still have zero regrets.
That is wonderful because the reason I was asking it because I bet you said you have a great network from before as well, right? Do you feel bad at times when you meet with these guys that they're like comfortable and they're gonna get that paycheck and the bonuses? Entrepreneurship, there's no bonus, and you gotta work more than everybody else.
Yeah.
And when they are enjoying and celebrating with the drinks, the bonuses, the commissions, you are building something from scratch. Do you feel bad sometimes when you meet with your
Uh,
ex-colleagues?
every now and then, yes, or maybe not even every now and then, like maybe once or twice a week, I think about, oh, that, maybe you take for granted what a nice, life compensation or material life you had before. But it's back to like learning, the silver linings. My wife works part-time, makes good money part-time, but it's part-time. So we've had to adjust as a family, like, and really hone in on like, we're spending this on like eating out or on just buying crap, and that's been great for us. So I say yes, sometimes I might miss that old life and that an old kind of compensation, the bonuses, and the fancier trips or more expensive trips. But then on the other hand, I have found, as like personally, as I've had to curtail spending on like various like hobbies I have, I've become more mentally free. I know it's like, as I've become less attached to these material things, and as I just force myself to not just, blindly just press the finger on Amazon app and buy something, because it's so easy to buy, that I'm actually mentally feeling more free. And so I'm thankful that we're in this phase where the money is not like what it was before, at all. And we have to be more thoughtful about it. And it feels like we're becoming a better steward of what we have. And then even in one day, I fully believe I will like completely blow out whatever even the peak of my earnings as a banker. One day it'll be far, far ahead of that. I feel like as I go into that phase one day, we will be as a family more thoughtful with the resources we have, and Anyway, so yeah, I do miss it sometimes, and sometimes when there's this perks of having some more disposable income, but in other ways I'm happier, which is interesting. And I get a small, we get a small, like just a, I mean, I say this very like a small glimpse of what a lot of Americans or people around the world deal with, in terms of a lot of people have constant stress about their financial position or their family. We don't have that, and there are days where I feel that pressure still, even though we are in a far better place than many families. But it's given us some more sympathy, or empathy into those like what a lot of Americans deal with. People around the world. So, anyways, that's
Yeah.
so yes, the honest part. Yeah, I miss some of the perks and some of the, of course, the reliable income is, but on the other hand, I've gained a lot of wisdom and more maturity about and more responsibility in regards to like your financial resources. As I've had now, I'm operating in a world where I have less of that. It's just, they can teach you a lot of good things.
Yes. I love the way you said it. You gotta be resourceful with your resources, right? You gotta learn to. I noticed that I have been entrepreneur not on a paycheck since 2019.
Hmm.
And there are so many things I miss about the corporate world. When I specifically meet the guys who we started the same, they have been able to save and buy a summer house and this
Mhm.
and that, and they're still in the same job. They're still doing the same job. You mentioned two things here, which it just blew my mind. One of them is mentally free. Yes, I have been extremely mentally free. And I was putting my shoes on the other day, and I noticed that I am not rushing anywhere.
Hmm.
And I noticed that because I'm my own boss, I am not scared of being late to somewhere. I'm not concerned that someone is just gonna check the clock, make the eye contact, and sometimes that is worth the
Oh,
challenges to go through.
absolutely.
And
Yes.
the, the mental freedom that comes with entrepreneurship gives you um, invincible power of control over yourself. And
Yes.
it's something you have to go through. You have to feel it, right? You don't just express it with words. However, that being said, you couldn't do that without the support of your from your spouse. If she did not support you, every single evening would turn into a fight.
Absolutely.
So important at this age, 40 plus, 35 plus, if you're married, at this age, it's so important to have someone in the family blindly will support you so that every challenge that you go through is not going to 10x. Because here's the thing, there are two scenarios, right? If your spouse does not support you, the moment you lose a contract, the moment you didn't get that sale, and that's our topic, sales goes wrong, right? The moment that sale goes wrong, now you have 10 other things on your mind to think that how are you going to explain it to your spouse? How are you going to explain it to your kids? Or how you are not as good in terms of the buying power as you used to be. But if you have a lot of support, endless support from the family, then you are like, okay, you know what? I can fully focus on this and get things done. First sale is not going to happen. Second sale is not going to happen. Third sale is not going to happen. Fourth sale is not going to happen. Ninth sale is not going to happen. 10th sale is going to happen. And then you're like, you know what? Okay, that's it. Now I can meet my kids at 3 p.m. when all my colleagues are at work, ticking in, ticking out, but I'm on my own. So I like that, the mental freedom is there and being comfortable with uncomfortable. But let me ask you this. How careful, you mentioned it actually. I want to add this and then ask you something. So since I became entrepreneur, I'm not buying the things I want. I'm buying the things I need. That's it. End of
Mm-hmm.
conversation. I have become very lean with the spending. And you mentioned it. You said you're learning to be more resourceful. But how do you see the next? You said the honeymoon is over. How do you see the next 6 months? So the first 6 months is gone. How do you see the next 6 months going in terms of like the
Mhm.
sales or personal branding or corporate branding? How do you see that happen?
Yeah, I think I'm at a stage where the first couple of months is just getting out there and back in front of my network that knew me as a banker and letting them know what I'm doing and just kind of just finding my bearings. Then, the last 4 months was starting to be able to really refine my offerings and my value proposition and my messaging and getting out there and starting to build a pipeline. My pipeline of activities starting to look pretty decent. It needs to be bigger, but I think I'm at that for the next 6 months. It's continued refinement of like I'm figuring out what's a good use of my time more and more. Like every client, even if there's a instinct of like, oh, just take the business. It's something. I'm learning to say no to certain opportunities, to be able to do a better job at client selection, to focus on opportunities that are going to be a better fit for what I do, my skill set, and just a better use of my time financially. So a lot of refining, I feel like, is what's happening now. Refining of messaging, refining of offers, refining of who I want to work with, and then just continuing to build up the pipeline because and what I do with is primarily helping companies, business owners sell their companies and help business owners source financing for all sorts of reasoning. These things, these deals can fall apart. They may not get to the finish line, or they might take 9 months to finish. So I don't really get, paid until these deals close. And so for me, it's about refining everything I just mentioned, but then building a bigger pipeline, but more thoughtfully, where I know that, hey, these may not be the big home runs, but these are smaller opportunities, but they're going to help pay the bills, and these might be a little bit shorter sales cycle. And then here's some big whales that might take 9 months, a year. They're still there, but I have a more practical mix of shorter term, longer term, higher likelihood of close, maybe lower likelihood. And so I think I'm at that point for that next 6 months where it's just a lot of refining of what I'm doing, which is good. It feels good being at that point of like having a better idea of like, here's how I want to spend my time.
But let me ask you this: while you are doing those things, are you rediscovering yourself, and are you unearthing the new skills that you thought you didn't have?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in this life, I mean, you're you're hustling, and I feel like a young banker again. When you get into banking field, especially in the sales side, and you're new, you're building a portfolio, and maybe you're getting some existing clients of the small. You get the really shitty, sometimes crappy clients of a senior banker. That's what happens. That's like the rite of passage. Like their worst clients, so good. Like, hey, we have a leadership opportunity for you, young banker. Take these 5 clients, and they're the worst clients, and that's how you learn, though. But for the most part, you're out there hustling, going to all the chicken dinner events and the networking, and that's what. And that's why I feel like I'm back in that kind of phase where you're really hustling and getting out there. Um, but yeah, so it takes, just even right now, it's taking me back to those early days of my career where you just got to be out there.
I I celebrate your decision. I celebrate your decision for two reasons. Number one, misery likes company. I mean, I'm like, hey, join me. And then
Yeah.
this, and the second one I celebrate is because I see this braveness in you going forward. I have to say, Anil, sometimes I do get emotional. When I look at back, it's not easy with the
Mm.
kids and with the family, with the it's not easy to go and find. And some people will question that. Why did you leave the convenience then? Why did you leave the comfort? Why did you leave that? And you cannot explain that there's an itch inside. You can't just, you cannot silence it. There's this itch inside that you want to get it out. You want to, you want to create something. You want to build something. And I have that. I have that, and I cannot silence it with a corporate paycheck. I can't do it. I always say, let me earn $100, but it will be my own money. I will make it.
Mhm.
I don't want
Mhm.
$1 million contract just on a paycheck. I will just get $100 and see how can I 10x or 1000x, but at least it will be my own. I don't want to hear anybody telling me what to do. And that on its own is priceless. So that's why I celebrate. Okay, let's talk about sales a little bit. Since you were like you said you had been a corporate banker for many years, what kind of sales skills you are bringing to entrepreneurship?
A lot of the good. That's the nice thing. I've been able to. The transition has been easy in terms of, as a banker, client. I was responsible for business development and managing existing clients. Those skills all transfer. It's just developing thoughtful relationships with people, listening, understanding what their problem really is, and then, forming the right solution for them. Being able to network and know where to spend your time with your referral network and how to make that fruitful both ways. All those kind of things. How to just even identify prospects and go about like finding who's a good fit, like all that stuff transfers to what I do now. So that's nice. It's helpful. It's not like I was in a non-sales role, back office role, and now I've put myself into this whole new arena of like constantly being in business development mode and relationship management. That all just totally transferred 100%. And but of course, I've had to add new skills to that. Going from banker, the salaried person, salary plus bonus. Um, I'm presenting terms on loans to clients or potential clients, and um, that's how we're pricing. But then in the end, all the interest and debt service payment, that's all handled by the bank back office. Here today, I'm what I had to get used to is pricing in a different way. Like I price, on commission percentages. If I close the sale of a company, I get paid a success fee, a certain percentage of what we sold the company for. If I help somebody close a loan or financing, I get a percentage of that. Or if I'm acting as like a consultant, which I do a little bit of consulting as well, then it's okay, here's an hourly rate or here's a retainer. That way of pricing my service is just totally foreign to me. That has taken me, and I continue to work on that, a lot of time to like wrap my heads around that, because I'm just used to, for so long, I just go out. I go out here as a banker. Here's your term sheet. Here's what we can do, and then we that's done. I get paid by the bank. My weekly paycheck and my year-end bonus, and like the client is doing all that payment to the bank directly, right? And this way, I had to learn how to become more thoughtful about like what is my time and knowledge worth, and that's been hard. And then just how to actually even simple things that a lot of people that have been in this world a lot longer already know, just like how do you how do I even I was like, how do you write a proposal? Like the first time I got a small consulting engagement, I had no idea like how to write a proposal of like what what I'm offering and what that's going to be charged at. And I was Googling and get template, Googling templates for proposal for a consulting project. I had no idea. So those kind of skills I've had to add, but there's so much of what I did before that's skill set and relationship and business development wise that is just totally transferred.
I like the examples that you gave, like in terms of trying to identify or find out your rate, right? How much you're going to charge, how much you're worth it, right? And then how much you charge and position yourself correctly so that you're not overpriced or you're not underpriced. And I think that takes experience, that takes practice.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you mentioned something that, you had to look for the business templates or proposals, right? It sounds like to me that you used to live with your parent, your mom used to cook for you, you just,
Mhm.
ate. and then someone was doing the ironing for you,
That's
and now
right.
you are like trying to figure out how to iron the shirt, how does this cooking work. Now you're starting certain things all over again. But let me take two Anils, from the early banker, or like just at the beginning of your career, and now. So if you look at back, if you could look at back and look at that Anil at the age of 23, 25, or whenever you started the corporate world as a like very young junior banker, what would you say to that version? That should he continue until 40, 45, or
Mm.
should he leave early, or what would you say to that?
Well, yeah, in some ways, yeah, I would tell that younger Anil, yes, like reflect more. If yeah, is there something more entrepreneurial that you would like to do, and if so, do it earlier. Do it. But on the other hand, I don't know. The thing is, it's like I followed a certain course of life that I don't know. It was just the way it's meant to be. I'm kind of tell people I'm a late bloomer in so many ways, um, and for me, it took to getting to my 40s to start feeling like, I had the maturity, the perspective, the value in the market, the skill set, and the network to like make a go of it. So yes, in some ways, I would tell the younger version like, hey, if you got an itch to do something entrepreneurial, do it earlier in life. It is easier, more in a lot of ways, practically speaking. At the same time, younger me didn't have the skill set, didn't have the network, didn't really have the true value in the market to really, I don't know, be that effective. So I think it worked out as it should for me, at 45 years old, but I'm not sure a younger version of me was ready for that, but in a vacuum, yeah, let's just say that I found those skills at that age, younger age, and I found that passion. Like, hey, I want to do something entrepreneurial. I would definitely tell that version that, hey, you should jump into this sooner. Don't wait 20 years and you got two kids and they're private school tuition and just normal family and house expenses to go make this leap. Do it earlier in life. But for me, my path was the right path, and it just I hadn't come into my own until like probably my 40s as a person, as a man, professional.
It's very nice to see how you are grateful for the things that happen and how you are blessed to have that recognition. Yeah, and you mentioned a very nice keyword here: follow the certain course of life. That certain course of life is something that that's your own path, right? You do not compare yourself to others, and you do not envy or become jealous by comparing yourself. Like the saying goes, comparison is the thief of joy, right? You keep comparing. I mentioned a couple minutes ago that you see these ex-colleagues or friends that they're buying these houses and these cars and investing, and you're like, you know what? So we do not compare. That's a lesson learned. It's easy to say, hard to implement, but a must-have. It's definitely you gotta stay away from comparison. If you want to ruin your day or your mood or your week or month, stop comparing. Let me ask you one more thing. Among all these things, would you marry, or you would marry late, or would you consider not marrying at all? Because when you are on your own, you can just you don't have to eat three times a day.
Yeah,
I just eat once a day because I'm saving on breakfast and dinner.
yeah.
But when you have a family, when you have spouse and the kids, that's a totally different schedule. Not only meal wise, not only food, but overall. What would you do? I mean, would you marry
Yeah,
late,
that's a good
marry early?
that's a good question. You know, um, it's interesting. Yeah, in some, yeah.
Before you answer, be careful. Your wife may see this.
Yeah. Oh, the answer, yes, is always, yeah, marriage. It was the marriages. That's always the right answer. It's just a matter of earlier or later. I think, for me, look, we talked about it actually. Sometimes if marrying younger, I married when I was 29 years old. But if we're married at a very younger age and then we started a family, well, there's realities, practicalities of having children that, as you get older, or the women get older, like it's just not as easy sometimes to have children. And we recognize that, we've experienced that at different points. So some ways we talk about, yeah, it'd be nice to have married younger. But in terms of what I do now, again, I just go back to like, I just wasn't maybe the right maturity even to get married younger. And that I'm a late bloomer. So in some ways it sounds kind of nice. Yeah, it would have been nice to start being married younger, and but then in other ways, like, in terms of what I'm doing now, you could see like, oh, maybe I should have gotten married later. But again, this was just my course. Each I can see there's some positives, negatives to both situations, whether earlier or later. But for me, I think again I was right on cue for my personal development, my course. And
Yeah. I, I have been divorced since 2018, and I have to say, I feel a lot lonely, and I can see the significant role of family in your
mm,
personal professional development. And I have to say, you're very lucky to have that spouse who supports you, who understands you. And I think going through many things alone is 10x challenging, right? More challenging, more difficult
yeah,
when you not only don't have anyone who supports understands you, but you don't have anyone at all, right? And I've started seeing a lot of messages online that entrepreneurship is a journey of loneliness. And I've heard this
mhm,
from the Shopify guy, I've heard this from the Spotify guy, and I've heard this many times on different podcasts. So you're lucky, Anil. You're lucky that at the in the evening at the dinner, you have your spouse to just turn around. And when I always look at these, scenarios, I remember the movie Don't Look Up. That moment when they go. I don't know if you have some movie, DiCaprio's movie about the end of the world, and there's a big comet coming to the Earth, and at the end of the movie, he goes to his spouse, and just before the Earth gets destroyed, they're having this dinner, and he holds her hand, and I think that is such a precious moment to have those tiny moments. I was visiting my friend in Turkey, and we were going to his house in the evening, and I said, "Are you not gonna buy flowers for your wife?" He said, "I haven't bought flowers for my wife for 15 years." I was like,
mm,
maybe you should change that. I mean, and he said, "If I buy flowers for my wife, she's gonna get scared that what happened? You have never bought her flower. What did you do wrong? Like, what did you do? What did you screw up?" But that's what I'm saying. There are so many things that we do not appreciate when we have them, and and only realize that we took them for granted when we lose them. So
yeah,
you're very
yeah,
lucky. So I think you should
I
get
know.
flowers. So
Yeah, sounds like it. Yes,
yeah,
especially
but
if
let
she
me ask you.
wants.
Yeah, and there are again. I have been very grateful. I've been very lucky to meet you, and I think we do also meet at the mentorship sessions, right? And I will see you soon at another mentorship session as well. But at the same time, I want to say, has your routine or the habits or the daily schedules have changed? Because when you're in the corporate world, you have to be there at 8:30, 8 a.m., 9 a.m., and then you're done at 5 p.m., and then, no one can call you on the weekends. How has it changed for you, and how are you coping with that?
Yeah, yeah, so most of my corporate career, yes, I was used to being in an office. That changed a bit during COVID. But yeah, most of my career, I was in an office. And if I wasn't in front of clients or prospects, I was in the office until a fairly predictable time, and then you're in traffic and all that. And so I usually pick them up from school. But I do miss sometimes actually having this permanent physical space where there's other people there. Like you said, it is still lonely. Yeah, it's even with the having a support system here and family and friends. It's a lonely journey, and it feels lonelier sometimes because I'm not in this more traditional office environment anymore, with full of people. So it's often just me. And alone with my thoughts. That's been a bit of an adjustment in that way. It's both good and bad. Like I said, more flexibility, more autonomy in my time, but at the same time, I still saw a lot of value in that office environment and culture. Some of the camaraderie and relationship building, which is certainly hard to do sometimes virtually. And that's why like being an advisor at the Canon, or why I love to take in-person meetings with my network when, if they're here locally, I always, love to see people in person, because that just helps me. I'm an introvert, but I still like to be around people on like small group settings, one-on-one settings. And I can't just be virtual all the time. It just doesn't work for me. But yeah, so there's been interesting adjustments, in good and bad, going from this corporate office environment, being there at certain hours, and going to a place where, an environment where I really have no official home, official office space. I'm everywhere. And but the control of time and autonomy of time, being able to take my daughter or son to a doctor's appointment, when I need to, that's fantastic. It's a amazing gift. Yeah.
You mentioned autonomy and adjustment. These are two keywords I picked up from you as well, autonomy and adjustment, because yes, the mental freedom brings also the physical autonomy, but at the same time, you need to adjust. Now you are your own boss. Just like you didn't have to deal with the templates in a corporate world, right? You didn't also have to deal with the structure. Someone set the time for you. Someone said you're going to be here at 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. Someone said 5 p.m. is the end of the day. You didn't have to, apply or adjust to those. You just, follow the rules because that was the rule of the corporate world. And there was some structure in it. In an entrepreneurial journey, there's no structure unless you create it for yourself. And it requires extreme amount of discipline, where where some of us or most of us fail here and there, right? Like you go to gym today and you don't go the other day because now you have a client meeting, or you have to send a last minute proposal because you just had an opportunity. That was not in a corporate world. There was a structure. Some people love structure, some people cannot stand the structure, and that's why I'm taking these two keywords, the autonomy and the adjustment. Autonomy doesn't mean the chaos, but adjustment helps you build your own structure. You still have a structure, but
Yes,
that's your own
definitely.
structure.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
good point. I've had to learn I still struggle with being smarter about my calendar and like creating blocks of time, and, being intentional with my time. So actually, yeah, the importance of structure in some ways has become just so much more important for me, because otherwise I'm not efficiently using my time. And then since I am in this, eat what you kill world, you really have to be brutally, efficient, intentional with your time, of best place to, and best place to use your time and invest your time. So yeah, it required that was something, yeah, I've learned. I was surprised, like, yeah, just how much structure is still needed within the entrepreneurial journey, even just from like being able to manage your time appropriately. So yeah, that's it's a different kind of structure, like you said, going from back in the kind of more traditional corporate environment, but you still need structure. That's what maybe a lot of people might be surprised at, is like, it's not just, you can't just be free flowing and you just, you're probably gonna run out of money in business soon, but you got to be structured with your time.
Yeah. The word that you used is intentional with your time. I like that. Intentional with your time. Last question before we wrap it up. And do you miss the corporate meetings that were like, pointless and long and
Gosh,
unnecessary.
I hated them. I hate them. I hate them so much. And the meetings after meetings and the meetings to have a meeting to discuss how to plan for the next meeting. It's like there was I just laughed because there was I don't know, age and maturity and point of life. By the time I left the corporate world, there was so much about the big corporate, and I used to only work for the very, very, largest corporations, Fortune 500 type corporations. There was so much about the corporate life, of course, good benefits, perks, but like there was so much that just rubbed me the wrong way, including just like useless meetings and just corporate stuff that I did not want to be part of. I realized, how by the time I left, how actually, fiercely independent and anti-corporate I actually am. Even though most people meet me for the first time, I'm very conservative on the outside and reserved, and I seem like to be a good corporate soldier, and I was for many years. But I'm actually very, very, independent, and I guess I learned that I had a little bit of an anti-corporate person, a
Yeah.
little man inside of me that wanted to, like, in some ways fight the establishment, or not fight the establishment, but just not want to conform to, the
Yes.
ways of the large corporate world. So I don't
I
miss the
see.
meetings.
Yes, definitely. I also see that entrepreneurs go into more of an, you mentioned it as well in your previous sentence, you said efficiency and intentional with your time. That leads to making decisions fast. That leads to
Yeah.
close to zero bureaucracy, right? And that leads to less layer of people decision making. Right? You are in charge. If you want to offer a discount, you don't have to go through seven people. You decide that you're going to offer 20% discount as long as you don't lose this client. So that gives you that the momentum, right? Because in corporate, you don't have that. You have to go through a
Yeah.
10 line of signatures to get 20% discount or to get an extension on something. The bureaucracy is there. And for a good reason, because that's a long, big structure. It's a giant corporate, what do you call it, structure that needs to slowly move. But when it
Mhm.
comes to entrepreneurship, you can move fast. And I always compare this cruise ship to a speedboat
Yes. Yeah.
because cruise ship cannot turn around. They cannot even like park in certain locations. They have to park far, far away, and then you have to take a boat. But entrepreneurship is a speedboat. Of course, you're not going to have 3,500 people on board. You're not going to have a pool on board of the pool of the pool. You're not going to have those things, but you're going to be swift, you're going to be agile, you're going to be fast, and you're going to be less bureaucratic, and you're just going to be meet the customer where the customer needs you to be there. So I think these are the key differentiators for entrepreneurs to capitalize on those things.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. Anil, this has been a pleasure. I love speaking with you, and I'm so lucky to have met you here at the Canon, and I will
Likewise.
see
Yeah.
you soon again. And there's so much to. Here's what I'm feeling. The gut feeling that I have is that you are just right now showing to the world the tip of the iceberg, and then just the tiny bit of the knowledge base you have. You are a treasure, and I think it's our job to unearth you, just basically pull the things from you so that the world can benefit from it because you have so much, you have so much. I mean, they say the US has a lot of oil reserves, or Qatar has a lot of gas reserves, or natural gas. Anil has a lot of knowledge reserves, and we need to just, like a BP sucks the oil. We need to suck that energy and the knowledge and put it out there. And I think that is a job for all of us to get that through discussions, conversations, engagements, so that you can share that knowledge with all of us. I really appreciate your time, Anil. If there's anything I can do for you, I am at your service. I'm at your disposal. It's a pleasure. It's an honor knowing you.
Thank you. I feel the same about you, and fortunate that we met. And yeah, look forward to seeing you soon. And yeah, just talking business and life. That's why I enjoy and appreciate you. You talk about both, which is important to me. And you have it's clear you think philosophically about both, and I do as well. So they're all intertwined, right? It's hard.
Yes.
It's not. You don't really bifurcate it. It's yeah. So I look forward to connecting again soon.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing your time with us, your knowledge with us. What I will do, what the next steps are, I will summarize all of this and put it out for the audiences, and I will share this with you as well. So make sure that you buy the flowers and have a lovely evening with your spouse.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I love that you mentioned, yes, you would marry. And she's like, Anil, you passed the
Yes.
test.
Yes, yes, yes. I should say, I probably should have said marry earlier. That's the only answer. And if it's,
Too late, too late,
it's too late. But that's okay.
But you still gave a good answer, and I think she's gonna love and continue supporting you, and you're blessed with that, and I think she's blessed, and the kids are blessed that you jumped the ship. You have also shown your kids that there are so many things in life that needs to be done, can be done.
Yeah.
It's just not one office, it's not just one clock, one meeting. So there's more onto life.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, my daughter, my 12-year-old is already inspired. She wants to be a business person, entrepreneur, and she's inspired already by what I'm doing. So I already see the possibilities. So that's like, I mean, even that alone like makes it all worth it. That if my two kids can go through life, even if it's working for somebody or not, but go through it with that eyes wide open about like what is all possible, and like, hey, let me try to pursue a road or path that's not very maybe uncertain, or most people don't take. Like, I want them to be risk takers, and I think they'll be more inclined to do that by seeing my journey. So that alone to me is worth what I'm doing.
That makes me happy. God bless you.
All right.
Be
All right.
healthy,
Thank
be
you.
well, and I look forward to seeing you soon again in the community.
Okay. Thanks, Seymour. Bye.
Take care. Bye bye.